Murdoch. This is a story about Murdoch, the tender engine. When he joined my railway, he thought the other engines talked too much. But he soon realized that they weren't so noisy after all. Thomas, Harvey, and Salty loved working at Brendam Docks. All day and all night, day after day, cargo ships arrived at the docks with goods that's from all over the world. This kept the engines very busy, but sometimes after working very hard all day, they felt so tired their axles ached. One day, Sir Topham had decided to bring a new tender engine to help. The new engine was very long and had 10 wheels. "This is Murdoch," said Sir Topham Hatt. "He's going to pull goods on the main line." "Ahoy, Murdoch!" shouted Salty. "Welcome, Murdoch," called Harvey. "You're the biggest engine I've ever seen," cried Thomas. "You're a chatty lot," said Murdoch quietly. Murdoch didn't like chatty engines or the noisy docks. He liked quiet runs through the countryside, with just the noise of his engine and the trucks for company. Soon Murdoch was coupled to a long line of heavy trucks. His boiler strained. His wheels started to turn. The mighty engine chuffed away. But Murdoch didn't puff through the countryside. He puffed through the busy builder's yard, with banging and hammering and drilling all around him. Murdoch longed for some peace and quiet, but wherever he went, it was noisy and crowded. At the end of the day, Murdoch was looking forward to a good night's rest. But when he got back to the sheds, as Harvey and Salty were full of questions. "What's the longest train you have pulled?" asked Harvey. "Have you ever worked in France?" added Salty. "Please," chucked Murdoch. "I want some peace and quiet. I don't want to share a shed with chatterboxes." "No need to be rude," huffed Harvey. "We're only being friendly," steamed Salty. The next morning, Murdoch collected another heavy train. This time, he chuffed into the beautiful countryside. It was splendid. All Murdoch could hear was gently rumbling of his wheels and the short puffing of his engine. At last, Murdoch had some peace and quiet. But suddenly, Murdoch's driver applied the brakes, and he screeched to a halt. There were sheep on the track, lots of sheep. "The sheep escaped from that field," said the driver. "Through that broken fence," added the fireman. The driver and fireman tried to chase the sheep back to the field, from first this way, then that way. They tried everything, but nothing worked. The sheep were being louder and louder. "It's no use," grumbled the driver. By now, the driver and fireman were very cross and tired. Then they realized Murdoch's steam had stopped. The boiler had no pressure. Called the fireman. "Murdoch's fire is gone now." "I'll go and phone for help," said the driver. Sir Topham Hatt was enjoying his afternoon cup of tea when he got the call. "Murdoch's in trouble," he exclaimed. "I'll send help right away." And Sir Topham Hatt went straight to the engine sheds. Meanwhile, Murdoch was stuck with all the noisy sheep. He was very unhappy. The valley wasn't peaceful anymore. Murdoch had never heard so much noise. But at last, the farmer and his dog were beginning to help move the sheep. "Chatting engines are much better than noisy sheep," mumbled Murdoch. Just then, Harvey and Salty and Harvey chuffed into view. "Am I glad to see you too!" exclaimed Murdoch. "We'll get you out of here in no time," cried Salty. Before long, Harvey and Salty were hooked up to Murdoch. Then they heaved and huffed. They chuffed out of the valley together. That night, the engines went back to the sheds. "Thank you for rescuing me," said Murdoch. "I'm sorry I was cross. I'm very pleased to share a shed with you." "And we're pleased to have you," replied Harvey. "Aye, we are," added Salty. Murdoch had found his peace and quiet at last.